As your chess game improves, so does the strength of your competition. When your opponent is no longer dropping material or falling for easy traps, it's not so easy to win. In order to break down your opponent's defenses, you need your pieces to work together to rip open lines, create weaknesses, and break through together as a team. One of the best attacking strategies is the battery. A battery is when two or more pieces work together on the same diagonal, file, or rank to rip open lines of defense. In this position, notice White's bishop on c2 is pointing at the vulnerable h7 square. If we can add another piece to the b1 to h7 diagonal, we will have set up a battery against Black's kingside. White's queen can join the attack on d3 or b1. Where should the queen move? Let's try setting up a battery behind the bishop first with queen to b1. The queen-bishop battery is now threatening to open up lines around Black's king and gain a pawn with bishop takes h7 check. After knight to f6, Black defends against the battery and improves the position of the knight. White can attack the defender with bishop to g5. But Black calmly plays h6, attacking the bishop and removing the pawn from the vulnerable h7 square. White can remove the guard with bishop takes f6 and bishop takes f6. And even though White can play bishop h7 check, Black can simply play king to h8. White has gained nothing from having the queen behind the bishop in the queen-bishop battery, and notice White's rook on a1 is now stuck in the corner because the queen is in its way. Let's take a look at this position again. Let's try putting the queen in front of the bishop, a far more effective battery. After queen to d3, White develops the queen, connects the rooks on the back rank, and most importantly, threatens checkmate on h7. If Black defends in the same way with knight f6, White can play bishop to g5. Black's kingside is under serious pressure. Black's best move is to play the weakening g6, preventing checkmate but creating weak squares around the Black king that can be targets for attack. If Black tries to defend in the same way when the queen was behind the bishop with h6, Black's position collapses after bishop takes f6, removing the defender. White at least wins a piece because after bishop takes f6, the queen-bishop battery crashes through with queen h7. Checkmate. Let's take a look at another position. In this position, White's rook on h1 is putting pressure on Black's h7 pawn. Notice that White's rook on d2 isn't really doing anything on that square. Can that rook become more active by setting up a battery on the h-file? Absolutely. After rook d to h2, Black is in trouble as White is threatening to break through the defenses by playing bishop takes f6 and then rook takes h7. Black does not have a good defense against this threat as h6 still runs into bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and the rook battering ram crashes through Black's defenses with rook takes h6. Let's take a look at another example. In this position, White will destroy Black's defenses using a combination of batteries. White first uses the queen-bishop battery to attack Black's important dark square defender of the king, the bishop on g7. After bishop to h6, White has the simple plan of capturing Black's bishop and then bringing the queen into the attack using the h6 square. If Black plays knight takes d4, hoping to distract White's queen from the attack, White simply ignores Black's knight and plays the powerful bishop takes g7. If Black recaptures the bishop with king takes g7, White's queen leads the attack with queen h6 check. And after king g8, White attacks the guard of the h7 square, the knight, with g5. If Black tries to break up the queen-rook battery with knight h5, White rips open Black's kingside defenses with the sacrifice rook takes h5. And after g takes h5, can you see how White can break through Black's defenses? Now that the g6 square has been opened, White pushes forward with g6. White threatens checkmate on h7, and notice that the f7 pawn is pinned by White's bishop. After h takes g6, White finishes the attack with queen takes g6 check, taking advantage of the pinned f7 pawn. After king h8, queen takes h5 check, king g7, queen g5 check, Black is forced to the h-file. After king h7, rook h1 check, and bishop h3. White wins the game with rook takes h3. Checkmate. If Black doesn't capture the dark-squared bishop and captures another piece with knight takes b3, White's kingside attack is unstoppable after queen h6. White threatens bishop takes f6, when the queen-rook battery destroys Black's defenses. Let's explore one more idea together. One of the most dangerous batteries is the queen and 2-rook battery. There are several ways to arrange this battery. Which setup is best? It depends on the position, but in general, the queen is not a great piece to lead the battery if a sacrifice is necessary. In this position, notice that White would have to sacrifice the queen in order to open up the g-file, which is too much material to offer if there isn't a clear winning line of attack. Often the best arrangement is a rook, queen, and rook battery. The first rook can be used as a battering ram to blast open defensive lines, which then opens up the great attacking powers of the queen. In this position, White can play rook takes g7. The rook is untouchable, as knight takes g7 would allow mate in 1 with queen takes g7. Notice that White is also threatening rook g8, which would also lead to checkmate. Black's best chance is to try knight f6, protecting the g8 square and connecting Black's back rank pieces. Unfortunately for Black, the battering ram strikes again with rook takes h7 check. And no matter if Black captures with the king or the knight, let's use the knight with knight takes h7, White ends the game immediately with queen g7 checkmate. The third queen and 2-rook battery possibility is having the 2 rooks in front with the queen supporting from behind. In this position, world champion Alexander Alekhine, also known as Alekhine, set up what is now known as Alekhine's gun. 2 rooks leading the attack with the queen supporting the battery from behind. White has a lot of pressure on the c-file against Black's pinned knight on c6. White plays the strange-looking rook to c3. Why would White play this move? We'll soon see. After queen to d7, Alekhine's opponent, Grandmaster Aaron Nimzovich, may have felt confident that he had enough defensive resources to keep his position safe. White now plays rook 1 to c2, loading Alekhine's gun. After king to f8 and queen to c1, Alekhine's gun is fully loaded and ready to win the piece on c6. After rook b to c8, Black has 4 defenders versus White's 4 attackers against the c6 knight. Alekhine's next move decides the game. He played the quiet bishop to a4. Since the c6 knight is pinned, Alekhine is ready to win the knight with b5. There is not a good way to prevent this plan, and Nimzovich soon resigned. Now that you've learned the power of batteries, it's your turn to try blasting open lines of attack.